All right, cool. Here we are. So Michael, the pun listener that you must listen to many. I mean, he
Well,
had
with
them for
Mark, I
what it
have
was
to.
worth. He had them going. He had those puns just
You both were like rapid fire. No, hey, I love what you've done here. It's the first time I used it, I got six names and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I'm like, oh, okay, I see. And Darren had already told me, get this.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad that it's starting to be helpful for you, and we hope to continue that process for you.
Yeah. Now, of course, I've got a keynote in Denver next month. And the first thing they said was, no, we don't want you giving that out. We don't want you putting that up. So this is a group of financial advisors, which I used to
Hmm.
be in that business. So I'm going to go
Yeah,
back to them and say, look, you need to see this demonstrated because your guys are doing seminars.
yeah.
So I'm going to reapproach. I'm not giving up on it yet.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's all about like you're saying best practices and approach, like saying, "Hey, I collect data to show the ROI of the presentation. Do you mind if I collect the results and share the report with you?" They
Yeah.
usually will go, "Yeah." But if you typically say something, and I'm not sure what you said, but I've had other speakers say things like, "Oh, I want to give something away to the audience. Do you mind if I collect their email to give them something away?" Then it's like it feels different, right? So it's
I
it's
got you.
this, yeah, it just feels different. So give it a try. And again, the financial planners, like we haven't gone into any verticals outside of the professional speaker space, but I think there's a lot of presentations that those folks do that they could benefit from it if they see it too. So keep me posted. Let me know how it goes.
Well, yeah, I spoke for them virtually over the summer. They liked it so much they asked me back. So I'm not somebody brand new, and they
It's
do a
great.
lot of seminars and they want some help with that. And it's like, I worded it incorrectly, I'm sure, but I'll go back. It was something
Yeah.
you said, I think, on the interview with Darren and Mark. I'm like, oh, I needed to word it differently.
Yeah. And a lot of it, hold on, I'm gonna close my door because my kids are about to run into the house. Hold on. A lot of the Okay, there it is. A lot of the wording is important right now because it's easier to say no to something if you don't know what it is, right?
Yes.
So putting it in the framework of something that's easy to say yes to, I think, is very important until something like Talkadot becomes ubiquitous and they go, "Oh, can I use my Talkadot?" And they go, "Of course." Until
Right.
that happens, you got to kind of play with it. And if they say no, you figure it out and then you massage it for the next time.
Absolutely. It's not,
You know,
there's always going to be a reason somebody doesn't want to do something. But you're right. We're so inclined to say no today
it's
that,
easier, it's safer.
just say no and move on. So,
Yeah.
what are you finding is the biggest challenge people are having introducing it right now?
Yeah. So the biggest challenge that we've seen consistently for someone who's not done it is one, what do I say? Right. And then two, how do I make sure it doesn't interrupt the flow of my presentation? Right. Like I kind of have a pattern and it's perceived as a kind of interrupt that seems confusing. And then
Mhm.
three, what do I do during that 2 to 3 minute window when people are giving me feedback? So I'm not just standing on stage kind of uncomfortable while people are doing it. So those are the three biggest things that we see. And there's ways to overcome all three of those. So I can jump into the answer to those, or if there's one specific one that stands out to you more than the other, happy to
No,
share
I think
whichever
I
one
heard you
it is.
say, but it always helps to get a refresher. I mean, you've
Yeah,
hit
for
the
sure.
first one is just how do you structure it? Hey, this is a benefit to you that you're going to get audience research.
Yeah. So when
The
you're
best
when you're
time to get
sharing
them is
it,
when they're hot in the session.
so when I'm talking to a client about it, so it depends. Okay, so there's teeing it up to the client and then there's teeing it up to the audience. So those are two different things, right?
Gotcha.
So typically what I do when I do a speaking engagement is okay, so this is one of those subjective decisions that you have to make, right? Like there's no black and white to what I'm about to say.
Mhm.
There are some times where I don't tell my host I'm doing it beforehand. I just do it. And then when I've teed it up and people are giving me feedback, I will actually walk over to them and say, "Hey, just so you know, they're filling out a survey. When I get the data, I'll share it with you so you can get a full report. Anything else you need from me before we wrap up in the next 5 minutes." And they've always been like totally fine.
Good.
However, if in my pre-event planning, the host says something to the effect of, "You're not allowed to collect personal information," or, if they give me any direction, which has happened once, right? I've had a client where everyone in the audience were government officials. So they were kind of like, "Well, we don't want personal information collected." I said, "Great, no problem. What I'd like to do is do a survey to see how effective the presentation was and can share it with you. When we do the survey, I can turn off any email or name collection stuff. So it's just data. Is that okay?" And then they'll typically go yay or nay. I've always had people say yay. So you have to decide category one, do you want to bring it up in your pre-event meeting, or just do it? I just do it unless they bring something up that sounds like I should bring it up. Number two, if you do bring it up in the pre-event meeting, I recommend doing it like this. "Hey, just so you know, it's very important for me to measure the effectiveness of my trainings so that folks like you know that if it was a hit or not. So at the end of my presentation, I plan on doing a very quick, less than 2-minute survey to get people's responses, and I'm going to share all of the data and results with you. Is that okay?" And if you position it that way, most people will be like, "Oh, wow, thank you. It's a value add," right?
Gotcha.
And then the important part to remember is with Talkadot, it moves in different directions based on how people answer. So if someone says, like, one of the questions are, "Do you book paid speakers?" If they say no, it skips any other questions regarding paid speakers. So
Mhm.
if I say no, I'm not going to get peppered with questions that are um, lead generation, which would make me upset because I said that I don't book speakers.
Right.
And then
Right.
if it says I book speakers, but would you like to book Michael? And they say no, then we skip any other lead generation questions. So what's important to note about that is no one in the audience will ever be answering a question that isn't appropriate for where they are and who they are. So you'll deal with a lot less of those people who are like, "This person was asking me questions after I said no." And that's what makes people angry. Versus the
Gotcha.
people who do want to book you, they're like, "Yeah, I book speakers. Yeah, I'd like to book them. Yeah, here's my info." They're actually happy to do so. So everyone in the audience is taking the same survey, but their experience while they're taking it is custom to how they answer. So there's less likely a chance that there will be any challenge there.
Gotcha. That
Um,
makes a lot of sense.
so that's how I recommend teeing it up to the host when you're talking. When you're on stage, what I always typically recommend is saying something to the effect of, so I'm gonna like act like I'm actually in a speaking engagement using like my almost verbatim script that have said so many times that I've just memorized it, but like you make it your own, right?
Right.
So thing. Out of curiosity, by a show of hands, how many people here felt like they got some value out of this presentation? Like this was helpful to you? Ah, well, the best way you can pay me back is to let me know what you thought about this presentation. I want to know what you liked about it so I can do more of it. I want to know what you disliked about it so I can improve upon it. And the only way I can do that is by getting feedback from folks like you. So I'd like you to take out your phones and scan this QR code. It's going to pull up a very quick, less than 2-minute survey where you can let me know what you thought about it. And as a thank you for giving me your feedback, I'd like to give you access to a summary of everything we talked about here so you can make sure you can take the next appropriate steps. So that's kind of like my tee up. So
Mhm.
it's about the feedback so I can get better. And I want to give them something as a thank you for them filling it out. So then that then introduces the survey. So now there's the 2 to 3 minute window. What I typically do in that 2 to 3 minute window is one of two things. The first thing that I'll do is literally I'll have a stack of papers, like on the lectern, if there's a lectern or something, and I'll walk over to it and I'll just literally take notes because every time I speak, like you're a speaking skills coach, so you're aware every time you speak, you're like, "Ooh, I did this thing really well," or "Ooh, this part really needs to be developed," or like there's things that are in my head and
Right.
that I'm self-assessing. So I'm just making notes to myself of like, I need to update my bio, or I didn't like this story, I need to revisit it. So I'm just like literally walking over to my lectern and just kind of taking notes. If I have any. I also look at any, I personally write down any of my thank yous on that, like any names of people I need to remember. I do my thank yous at the end of my talk because I think it's more powerful to do it at the end versus the beginning.
Mhm.
Because in the beginning, no one knows who I am and they don't care about me. At the end, they've hopefully like built an emotional connection. So when I thank the host, they're appreciative more. So anyway, I go over my names, and then I can look up. And by the time I walk over, take a couple of notes, most people are done. Now, what I tell the audience after I've teed it up and that space has begun, I say, do me a favor, when you're done giving me your feedback, put your phones down and look up so I know you're finished, so I can leave you with one final thought. So I'll say that, right? And
Gotcha.
because what I don't want people to do, I don't have my phone. It's somewhere. Oh, here it is.
I got mine
Um,
here. Oh, I'm done. I guess I'll go see what Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are
Exactly.
doing.
That's exactly right. I don't want someone here and then they look around and everyone's still filling it out. So they're like, okay, well, and then I never know when the audience is finished.
Right.
So by
Yeah, that's a
saying,
great
please
tip.
put please put your phone down and look up so I know you're finished, so I can leave you with one final thought, you'll see around the same time people doing this and looking up, people doing
Yeah.
that and looking up. And then when I feel like the majority of the audience has finished, I'll typically say, if you're still giving feedback, please finish doing that while I leave you with this final thought. And then I go into my typical closing, which I like to do a call to arms, which is like my here's what I want you to go do now kind of thing.
Okay.
So that's what I recommend. The second thing that I do during is I'll literally walk over to my client. So typically your client will sit in the front row or sometimes in the back of the stage, but typically they're in the front row. So I literally will walk over to them and say, hey, audience is giving me their feedback. I'm going to get this report. I'm going to share it with you so you can see what everyone is saying. I'm going to wrap up here in about 5 minutes. Is there anything you want me to say or do before our time is up? Now, 99.9% of the time, they'll say, everything's great. Thank you so much. And I go, awesome. And then I'll walk back on stage and then wait until I see the signs and then start. However, occasionally, and it's only happened to me like twice, I've had people say, oh yeah, could you mind letting people know that lunch is in the back of the room before we finish, and there's boxes, so make sure people grab it. And I'm like, yeah, sure, like happy to like make an announcement. So while people are giving survey, I'm like, we're gonna finish up in 5 minutes, and don't forget, there's gonna be grab and go lunch, and you're free to go after this session. So I might say something like that if they ask me to, but that happens so rarely that it's usually just people go, thumbs up, buddy, thanks.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then by the time I get back to the stage, by the time I've teed it up, walked off stage, talked to the host, and walked back on stage, pretty much everyone's done. And then I go into my closing. And what people will find, which is that hesitation I mentioned about like messing up the flow, you'll actually find you get better standing ovations and better rounds of applause. And my belief is I've been listening passively to you talk to me for, say, an hour. Now I'm actively talking about why it was impactful, right? Assuming I did a good job, right? I learned this. It was great. So it's like it's almost concreting. That's not a word, but it's it's making me more like, oh, this is what I got out of it. This is what was valuable. I just spoke about it a little bit, and I'm more appreciative. So then when you go into your closing, people think you lose momentum, and you really don't. You actually build it in a way, but it just is. It's a different approach to it. And then I always recommend like try it out, and you'll see you get the same, if not louder applause than you would get if you normally just launched into it.
Well, that fits within my style because we usually do something, whether we pair people up or I use Mentimeter a lot.
Mhm.
So I'll have people in the past, I'd say, what's one action item you're going to take based on this presentation? I
That's right.
want them seeing that on the screen. So yeah, I don't have a problem with
And you
breaking.
can add that question, by the way, into our survey as a custom question and say, hey, what action? And then if you want to say, hey, discuss with the person, what was the action or something like that. So there's options you can still do to keep that same vibe, which is, I think it's great that you do that. I think
Yeah,
it's really, really
that's
good.
what I'm doing. It just plays right into the final story.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Yeah, love that. Um, what do you see coming in 2024 for you?
Oh man, we're gonna be doing a lot of cool stuff. So one of the things we're focusing on right now is we're noticing. So this doesn't necessarily affect current users currently, but it'll make the new users much happier, is creating a flow where people come in, and it's just easier for them to get set up. So it's like based upon like understanding the way users have been using our tool, we've been noticing that when people register, they're not 100% sure what their very next step should be after registration. So we're creating a new streamlined process for that. And then we're going to create features which are around email automation. So after your leads come in and your booking leads come in, you'll be able to just automatically email them, um, follow up or whatever it might be. We're going to do a Zapier integration so that if you want to connect our tool to like whatever email software or CRM that you're using, you can have a seamless integration. So as your leads come in, you can automatically put them into whatever workflows or email automation follow-ups. Or again, you can do that within our system. And then a little bit more on the customization side. A big piece of feedback we've gotten from a lot of folks is they want to have more ability to customize. So we're going to have the same structure. So if some folks want to jump in and just use our structure, they can. But if people want to trim or change a little bit, they'll be able to do that. So we'll have that. And then we got some cool. Are you part of NSA? Are you in the
Yeah,
NSA
yeah,
world?
sure. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be doing a promotion where we're giving away a vacation to an NSA member who happens to have a Talkadot account. So by definition, being involved in NSA and having a Talkadot account, you're already registered. So we're going to do like some fun promotional stuff as well, but it's going to be pretty fun. We got some cool features and some cool
Yeah.
promo stuff.
That's what I first heard about from NSA, and then I saw you guys a year or so ago, and then like
Mhm.
everything else, it's cool, and then life interrupts, and then Darren said, "You need to use this." Yes,
Yeah.
sir, Darren, I will.
Well,
Now I'm
there
sold
it is.
100%. I do need to
Yeah.
make sure I've got my affiliate link with you because I definitely am talking you up more and more.
Yes. So in your, I'll show you this just so you can see it. Let me show my screen. So when you log into your account right here,
Mhm.
in the upper right hand corner is going to be your affiliate link. It's always there. So all you have to do is click here and you can copy it or share it however you'd like. And then if you give this link to people, you'll automatically get into our program. And for every person that you refer who upgrades to a pro account, you'll get $50. And the
Mhm.
person you refer, they get a $30, 30-day trial of pro. And if they do upgrade at any point, instead of it being $420 for the year, it's $399. But if they do upgrade within the first 30 days, they get an additional $25 off. So they get it for $374 for the whole year instead of $420. So they get a little bit
Okay.
of a discount, and you get $50 for every person.
Gotcha. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And you made it really hard for us there, right there on the homepage, right in front of us. And I have to search through 8 tabs. You clearly are a speaker who speaks well and understands the pain in the butt most technology gives us.
Well, it's the unique perspective that I'm very grateful for because I've been a professional speaker for 17 years, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of what we do and build has to first filter through. If I don't like it and if I as a rel don't like the feature, or if I as a rel find it confusing, everyone is going to find it confusing, So instead of someone on the outside building it and going, well, just use it. It's there. Like search through 8 tabs. Like it's there. It's like I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just not gonna do it. So
Right.
let's make it easy. So we're hoping to, and one of the things that's fascinating is as we use the tool, you'll see small, very small changes constantly because we're trying to make it easier and easier so that it becomes just super easy. So we made lots of improvements. We have so many more to make, and we're looking forward to it. Like we're looking forward to the point where it's just like, my gosh, this is just mwah, chef's kiss. It's like an
Yeah.
Armani
Yeah.
suit, just perfectly built for me. Thank you. So we're moved, but feedback from our users is how we get there.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, I love the tool, but you and your story is what sold me on making the investment in it because I know you're out there doing it and I could see the simplicity, which is
Thank you.
that's one of the ideas I'm constantly teaching people is simplicity is beautiful because
That's right.
as one of my coaches taught me years ago, a confused mind says no, a clear mind says go.
Mm, I like that.
And
I
you
like
made
that.
it so straightforward. It's like Apple makes it easy to open the box and use it.
Mm, mm.
I didn't need all your videos. They certainly made a big difference. So they're just helpful, deeper understanding, but I could get on there fairly quickly and figure out, okay, I'll use it, screw it up, and then go watch the videos and see what I should have done right the first time.
Yeah, and you know, it's so interesting because what I've learned over the last 2 years on going on this journey is that the tools that we use that are really, really simple, we actually don't even think about it because they're so simple, right? It's
Mhm.
when there's a friction point. It's when there's like, I want I want to do this and I don't know how, or I want to change this and I don't know how. That's when you start going like, ugh. Or if you jump in and you have that overwhelmed feeling and you're like, I'm just not even gonna, like, this is above my pay grade, right? Like when you think about like an Instagram or a Google, I think Google Maps, in my personal opinion, is one of the most elegantly designed tools because if you think about, you don't even think about it, right? You just log in, you know, open up your apps, go where you're going. It tells you how to get there. You get there, you're done. Transaction's over. But if someone said you could never use Google Maps ever again, you'd be like, wait a minute now, right? Like no one else does it better. Like no one's like clamoring over, I don't know, Garmin, you know, like we used to be back in the
Yeah,
day. So like to get to that point is such a it's such a labor of love. But when you get there, it's like it's so cool. It's so cool.
absolutely. I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things that makes Amazon so easy to use. It's not a pretty site, but it's like, I want that, click, click, done.
Easy, easy. And you know, I think the greatest example of it is Craigslist.
Mhm.
It's by far the ugliest website, the most outdated, you know, has not, but it just is so simple and it
Yes,
works so well that you're like, I could go for something that's more beautiful, but it just does the job, you know, it does it so well. So
right.
getting there is, you know, sometimes people are lucky and sometimes people are, you know, it's a lot of small changes, but getting it to just work is super important to me. So I appreciate you saying that because
Oh,
we,
absolutely.
we are 100% dedicated to constantly trying to make it simpler, to make it easier, to make it more valuable. And there's this weird balance, which is probably more information than you need, but like I'm actually very fascinated with it, of like making something robust but not confusing, right? Because what happens is a lot of times I was like, well, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, I wanted to do this, and you go, okay, and then you build it all, and then you're like, wait, I'm confused, it's too
Mhm.
much, and then I do nothing. So it's like you got to keep it super simple, but then also create that ability for people to. It's a whole art. It's a
Oh, yeah.
crazy
No,
art.
I'm fascinated by that too, Arel, because and I'm trying to, what was that device people used to use before cell phones became popular? It was a handheld device. It was a
Oh, the Palm
plant,
Pilot.
Palm Pilot.
Yeah,
They went out of business. Yeah, because the cell phones came, but they started making it too complicated.
yeah.
The engineers all got, I want to add this and this. And I said, I don't understand this anymore.
It was way, I remember those. I remember when I got my first one, I was super excited about it. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And then I never used it because it was just too complex. When you look at this, the ease of the phone, you know, that was the thing that I think that at the time everyone thought was stupid, but now we realize the elegance of the simplicity is that, you know, when you look at an Apple design, they've put so much attention to detail in
Mhm.
simplicity, not functionality. And that's the big thing that I always go back to when I think about like what we're building. It's not good enough that it just functions, right? It's got to be simple, it's got to be usable, right? So I think a
Yes.
lot of people build things and they go, well, it functions. It does the thing I want it to do. It collects the lead, right? But what is the step? Like, how many clicks does it take for me to get there? How many steps does it take to get there? And luckily, we have a really, really great product and engineering team that's like dedicated to that. And we're constantly trying to make it just a
Yeah,
little bit
that's awesome.
simpler,
That's
little
awesome.
step simpler. One,
Yeah.
save 1 second, save one. You know, if you can save a second, and then you do that second over a year of time, that could be worth like hours, you know, minutes, you know, and that's valuable. So anyway, we're very
That's it.
dedicated to that, man.
No, that it shows. So look, I love this, and I'll be in touch with. Look, I'm gonna let you go. You got to go enjoy the rest of the week, and
Same to you,
I'll
man.
you do this once a month, right?
We do this once a week. So
Once a
the
week.
AM,
Okay.
yeah, the AMAs, we're always, you're never a week away from being able to jump. So if you have a talk coming up or a question, and typically when it's not Now we have way more people
Oh, I get
that
it.
come on.
Hey, I didn't.
Sometimes it's people like to jump on just to hear what other questions people are asking, to think
Yeah.
like, oh, I never thought about that. And it's a great group of people. It's a great community. So love to see your face again.
Yeah. Oh, you'll definitely see me at least once a month. And then as I have
Let's
events
do it.
coming up, I'm always looking for ideas. So appreciate you. Have a happy new year and we will
Happy New
talk
Year.
soon.
All right. Take care,
Thanks,
Michael.
Earl. All right.
Be
See
well.
you.